If you no get BBL, you no be woman.
My sister, if you no get BBL, what do they do with your life? This is what all happening babes and slay queens are doing to belong. Sit up, my sister.
In Lagos, everybody knew Sade Williams. If you stepped into a party on the island and didn't see Sade, then it wasn't a real party. She had a laugh that traveled across rooms, a walk that made heads turn, and confidence that refused to apologize. She was slim, tall, glowing, one of those girls people said didn't even need makeup to look good. Sade worked a regular job during the week, but weekends belonged to the night. Birthdays, lounge openings, yacht parties she never paid for. She wasn't rich, but she looked like money. And in Lagos, looking like money was already halfway there. Her Instagram was proof. Pictures under soft yellow lights. Short videos dancing to trending songs. Comments filled with fire emojis and heart eyes. You're perfect. Natural beauty. Don't change anything. She believed them until she didn't. It started with small things. A joke at a party. A whisper she pretended not to hear. Imagine Sade with hips though. She laughed it off. But later, alone in her room, she stood in front of the mirror longer than usual. Turning sideways. Pushing her hips out. Wondering. Social media didn't help. Every scroll showed curves. Big backsides. Before and after videos with millions of views. Girls who used to look like her now getting brand deals, trips, and endorsements. She told herself she was fine. That she loved herself. That she wasn't insecure. But Lagos had a way of whispering doubts into confident minds. Soon, compliments started to change. Your face is so pretty. You'd break the internet with a body. You're almost there. Almost. That word stayed with her. When a DM arrived from a girl she barely knew, someone who had gone quiet online for months and returned suddenly famous, Sade clicked without thinking. The message was simple. If you're interested, I can help you. Sade stared at her phone for a long time. And for the first time, the girl who owned every party felt unsure of herself. The girl's name was Tomiwa. Her page looked unreal. Designer bags. Private jets. Body snatched beyond imagination. She spoke softly in voice notes, like someone sharing a secret. It changed my life, Tomiwa said. I used to be just like you. That sentence hooked Sade. Tomiwa talked about opportunity. About how brands love curves. About how men respect you differently. About how Lagos rewards bold decisions. She mentioned a doctor. Not in Nigeria. Somewhere far. Somewhere cheaper. Somewhere safe. Sade asked questions. Tomiwa answered quickly. Smoothly. Too smoothly. There's risk in everything. People only talk about bad stories. Look at me now. Sade didn't tell her friends. She didn't tell her mother. She told herself it was her body, her choice, her future. Money became the next issue. She sold small things. Borrowed quietly. Took a loan she pretended was for business. Each step felt heavy, but she kept moving forward. At night, doubt visited her. What if something goes wrong? What if I regret it? But then she imagined herself walking into a party after the transformation. Phones flashing. Heads turning. Silence falling. That image drowned the fear. The trip was planned quickly. Too quickly. A few days of messages. A rushed flight. A promise of coming back better. At the airport, Sade took a selfie. Caption: time to disappear for a bit. The comments were playful. Come back glowing. Don't forget us. She smiled at her phone, unaware that she was saying goodbye to the version of herself that laughed without fear. The hospital didn't look like Instagram. That was the first thing Sade noticed. The walls were dull. The smell was sharp. The smiles felt rehearsed. She tried to calm herself by thinking of the outcome, not the process. The procedure happened quickly. Too quickly. She remembered bright lights. Cold hands. A sharp pain that stole her breath. Then darkness. When she woke up, pain greeted her before reality did. Her body felt foreign. Heavy. Tight. Burning. They told her it was normal. You'll be fine, they said. Beauty needs patience. Days passed in slow motion. Painkillers blurred time. Her phone buzzed non-stop with messages asking where she was, but she couldn't reply. She couldn't sit properly. Couldn't walk without help. Something didn't feel right. Her body began to swell unevenly. Fever came and went. When she complained, they told her not to worry. Your body is adjusting. But deep down, Sade knew. When she finally returned to Nigeria, she didn't announce it. No airport pictures. No I'm back post. She stayed indoors. The girl who never missed a party now missed calls. Her friends joked at first. Madam Big Girl, where you day hide? Sade stared at the ceiling, sweating, shaking, scared. The music had stopped. Weeks passed. Sade lost weight in the wrong places. Pain followed her everywhere, sharp, uninvited, and constant. Infections came quietly and stayed too long. She spent money she didn't have on treatments that didn't work, each one reminding her of the decision she had made. Lagos was loud, people were busy living their lives, but Sade felt trapped in a body that no longer felt like hers. She avoided mirrors. They reflected not her beauty but her fear. Every reflection reminded her of the price she had paid. Her friends called often, their voices cheerful, oblivious to her struggle. She lied, said she was busy or sick, laughed at jokes she barely felt. But inside, something had shifted. When she finally gathered the courage to look at herself, she cried not just for the body she'd changed, but for the girl she had left behind. The girl who danced without thinking about curves, the girl who laughed freely, the girl who didn't calculate every angle for Instagram. That Sade seemed like a stranger now. Online, her followers waited. The silence made them curious. Rumors started swirling. She's pregnant. She's engaged. She traveled again. Sade posted an old picture, filtered to perfection. Likes came fast. Comments poured in, hearts, fire emojis, admiration. But behind the screen, she was breaking. The applause she had sought came too late to comfort her. She tried reaching Tomiwa, the girl who had promised so much. The messages went unanswered. Her number stopped going through. It was as if the city itself had swallowed her hope. Reality settled like a weight on her chest. The laughter, the parties, the freedom she had taken for granted, they were all gone. And Sade realized that fame and beauty weren't enough to fill the emptiness she now felt. Nights became unbearable. Pain woke her up. Regret whispered loudly. Every small sound in her apartment reminded her of her choices. She remembered the girl she used to be and wept. Not just for her body, but for the innocence she had traded for a dream she barely understood. Lagos didn't wait for anyone. New girls took over the parties Sade once ruled. New faces filled Instagram explore pages. Trends moved fast, shifting like the tides of the lagoon. Even familiar lounges now had new it girls posing under neon lights, their pictures shared instantly, their laughter echoing across the city's feeds. Sade watched from the sidelines, invisible yet painfully aware. Invitations stopped. Friends visited less. She felt herself becoming a ghost in a city that once celebrated her every movement. She tried returning to work but couldn't sit for long hours without pain radiating through her body. Excuses piled up, sudden sickness, back pain, family emergencies. Slowly, opportunities vanished, slipping through her fingers like sand. The reality of her choices pressed harder with each passing day. One afternoon, a message appeared on Instagram. I used to look up to you, wrote a girl whose face seemed familiar from old parties. You inspired me. Sade stared at the screen. Her heart tightened, tears threatening to fall. In that moment, she realized that fame was loud, but temporary, and pain was quiet but faithful, reminding her of every misstep. For the first time, she considered her own healing. She made calls to real doctors, started physical therapy, and began meeting with someone who could help her process what had happened. Slow, painful progress, But it was real progress. She began journaling, writing thoughts she could not speak aloud. She cried openly for the first time in months. Lagos moved on, as it always does, but Sade was beginning to move, too. Not toward fame, not toward clout, but toward herself. The city that once cheered for her beauty now became a silent witness to her recovery. Months later, Sade posted again. No filters. No music. No staged captions. Just words that trembled on the screen, honest and raw. She didn't explain everything. She didn't show photos. She didn't beg for sympathy. She simply shared lessons about pressure, comparison, and choices. Some people listened. Others scrolled past. Some commented with understanding, others with judgment. But Sade felt lighter than she had in months, perhaps even years. She wasn't the girl who ruled the parties anymore. She wasn't the girl everyone envied. But she was the girl who survived her own decisions, who had faced the consequences and lived to tell the story. That alone gave her power. That alone gave her peace. She spent mornings walking along the Lekki beach, feeling the sand under her feet and the wind in her hair. Evenings were quiet, filled with books and music she had once ignored in the chase for attention. Slowly, she reconnected with friends who understood her without judgment. Slowly, she laughed again, small but real laughs that came from her heart. In a city that celebrated outcomes more than journeys, her story became a quiet warning. Not every glow-up is a blessing. Not every trend is worth chasing. And sometimes, the cost of fame is higher than anyone can imagine. Sade had paid her dues, and in the process, she found herself again. She was no longer perfect by Instagram standards, but she was whole, and that was more than enough.